swear to God, Tom.
Not a phone call. I thought someone was like screaming my name from upstairs.
I heard that.
That's what it sounded like too from my end. Yeah.
How the fuck could you tell me you can't hear my vent howling like the wind, but you can hear quiet voices from 80 feet away?
Yeah, because the microphone's designed to pick up human voices, but also when I mess around with all your audio in Audacity, I can get rid of that weird, like, repetitive buzzing stuff easily, because that's how technology has advanced so far.
Wow.
That's not true. That's a psyop.
Yeah. It is a psyop. It makes you sound like a tin can robot. When your fucking audio's really bad, but when your audio's good, like now,
it's so easy. Luffy, the audio he sent me like my unedited audio, because from before like, it was still working as a microphone. It just wasn't good. He sent me my unedited audio, and it was so... Spark, can you pull that up if you still have it?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't try, but like his audio is literally just like, it's a solid bar of noise. Like it's like a candy bar with like little pieces missing out. Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can.
We have a friend in my server, and he always comes in, and whenever he comes in, he sounds like he's underneath like 3 duvet covers. So we just named him Duvet Cover in my server because you can't understand him.
That's great.
He sounds like he's underneath somebody.
Speaking of your server, it's pretty. I joined it recently just to like check out to scout, see what's what, and it's very interesting.
It is.
I like it.
It's a lawless land, I will say that. I don't stream in there very often because it's literally a collection of like the worst members of every group I've ever been in. So when you get in VC, it's like people are fighting with lead pipes. Like it's a horrendous mixture of people.
We're talking old school internet vibes.
Yes.
That reminds me of when I was on like secretly, was it them? No, Saucy Mall. Reminds me when I was on Saucy Maller's server, except the way it was everyone was super chill until a new person would come in, and then everyone would be like bitching about the new person.
Ew.
Including me.
Our server,
which is why I'm no longer there.
Like my server isn't too bad. So I gained a lot of friends on the E621 server, the official server for E621. There's a lot of like, it's actually pretty nice. So a lot of the mods there are pretty nice, but like there's also a lot of people who join that are just like people who are in IT that are very technically skilled and very intelligent, but very horrible at like interpersonal communication. So they'll just like, they assert their knowledge, they provide insight on things, but they don't know like how to read the room. And then on the other side of things, I have lots of like my closest circle of friends is just all belligerent black people. So we just like scream at each other and we're crazy and we say offensive things. And these like soft, furry like tech guys are so offended by my black friends that like when they're in VC, it's like a fucking mess. It's horrible.
You could say it's night and day.
Literally, quite literally.
Are you friends with Soam? You know, not to fucking not to determine his race by any means, but like, are you friends with Soam?
Yeah,
Soam isn't from this planet.
Soam's a mixed breed. He's not a purebred.
I figured.
Yeah.
See,
he's like the Avatar.
I figured.
Well, here's why. So, like, light skins have a light skin radar. I can tell when somebody's light skinned because they're like, they have black isms, but there's that like one little white thing sticking out that like you can always see.
Their penis.
Yeah.
They eat mayonnaise.
Yeah, like they'll say something like, "Oh, I just boiled some chicken," and you're like, "Oh, motherfucker."
Dumbass doesn't know how to fry shit. Yeah. It's silly. I don't know. Have you ever run into that thing where it's like, because I think it's more of a location thing, but like everybody always boils it down to like a race thing where it's like, oh, white people don't know how to like season things with like spices and herbs, and I'm like, that's not exactly true.
Yeah, you've heard of the country of Italy?
I mean, there's a lot of white people that know how to cook, but like some of the most notorious examples of white people cooking online are like a woman putting Velveeta cheese and uncooked chicken in a pot and stirring it.
Well,
so,
the worst of those,
that is true.
The worst of those, you generally find them coming from like British and Scottish people or like
Yeah.
immigrants.
Dude, British people don't know how to cook for shit.
Scottish are even worse.
so
Have you ever seen
sad.
fucking Kay's Kitchen? It's terrifying.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
horrifying.
Kay's Kitchen is my favorite.
Like, not only
I
is it
love
bad
it.
cooking, but there's like numerous fucking like health and safety violations in any given video.
And she's so cheerful the whole time.
She is.
I'm like-
It's pure.
I think that my favorite is the one where she just wraps raw spaghetti with what is it? Chopped meat. No, she calls it mincemeat,
Yeah.
and then just cooks it in the oven, and all the spaghetti's just burnt sticks. She force feeds it to her
Doing it on
son.
purpose now.
That was an older video before she was popular.
Damn.
Really?
That reminds me.
Yeah.
Tom, there's this one guy that does like cooking videos from like way back when, like before like cooking videos really popped off on YouTube, and he did this like Tim and Eric type thing where like literally he used like Windows Movie Maker, and you could tell like that he knows that he's making bad food and he's like doing it on purpose, and he's like got this whole like TV show kind of setup.
Was this the old guy that would like just everything he made he would pour in like shit tons of sugar and marshmallows?
No, it's completely different. I can't find the guy, but I keep on because like I found them out through fucking Stamper of all people. You know the guy that's like on crack now and it doesn't animate whatever. But you know Stamper, the old school Newgrounds guy. He talked about him a lot, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna deep dive and find this YouTuber, and I did. And I was like, holy shit, this stuff's hilarious. And there's like 100 videos, and I never got to watch them all, and then I forgot to subscribe to him.
Basic.
No, so you lost him.
I lost it, so I have to find that again. But when I do, Tom, I'll show you.
Watch it just be How to Basic.
It's not. It's old school YouTube shit like that fucking granular, like filmed with like 720p.
I love that. That's why I love the Tim and Eric like aesthetic.
Yeah.
I also really love this. I don't know if this one is intentional, but I love the one where it's the old guy in his fucked up house, where his camera is so old that everything looks like gray and muted. And he's like, I'm gonna teach you.
Like how fucking Christian Weston Chandler broke his fucking like eye toy fucking camera.
It's like that but worse.
I want to get an eye toy again.
He's like, I'm gonna teach you how to make a castle cake suitable for children's pie. And like the quote unquote cake that he makes, he uses first of all he uses empty tin cans that he cut the tops and bottoms off of as like to shape the batter. And the batter just looks dark gray.
Oh,
and he's like, it's just the most. It looks like it's made of dirt. It's the most disgusting, vile looking thing.
The most delectable thing in the world.
It looks horrifying, and it's like, it's almost scary. It's like an analog horror video, but it's real. It's so good.
Really
I mean, there's a small chance that it was an intentional like bit, but it's an old video, and it seems like completely not self-aware. I would be genuinely impressed if it turned out to be like fake. Like I wouldn't even be upset. I would just be like, that's amazing, like artistically.
Yeah. Not even artistically bankrupt. It's just solid.
There's so many like weird like strange YouTube like channels where it's usually old people or like really small children, and they make such bizarre content, and you're just like, who's gonna watch this? But then you realize like these little like micro communities have like a pretty decent amount of like people who follow the people just to watch their weird content. So
well, it's
my younger sister was like that. She fucking, like. Okay, there's this weird rabbit hole of like just people who like use stuffed animals and do basically like puppets with stuffed animals, right? And it's literally just kids playing pretend with stuffed animals. That's literally what my sister did when she was like younger. And I'll say this much now: my sister is like since this isn't on the record, you guys can actually follow her on Twitter if you want. But like, she's actually a really good artist. Her name is like Novus Mars, but damn, dude, like early days she would like ask my dad to help her film like YouTube videos of her like with fucking Pokemon like stuffed animals. I'm like, who's gonna watch this stuff? and then little do I know, there's like a huge fucking community of like people with like Pokemon shit.
Yeah, she has 1 million subscribers. She's like selling merch.
Yeah, she has like 1,000 sleeper subscribers, but she doesn't know how to log back into her old YouTube channel. That'd be good.
Has there been a channel like that where like they uploaded for like 5 years, and then they stopped for 10 years, but then people found the old videos and were like, "This is amazing," and it blew up?
Yeah, I think so. There's been a couple of cases of that. I don't know any specific ones offhand. Especially now because like YouTube's been around for so long that you can have that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I'm always terrified of just when YouTube's eventually just going to be like, "Yeah, we're pulling the plug on YouTube. It's not worth it anymore." And it's like,
I,
what?
I
And
think
then
that
it
what's
just goes dead.
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. What I think will happen is they're going to say, all right, videos that are over 5 years old and have under 100 views are just going to start getting deleted.
Oh, dude, that
Because
was
they're going to want... Because they're gonna want to start clearing up like space, and they're essentially hosting like one of the biggest cloud storage services in the world.
yeah. I wonder if they're deleting videos now. It's just like that's why you can't find anything.
Possible.
I'm curious. Yeah.
It is
That'd
weird
be something.
how often it is that you'll find a classic playlist, like you'll be like, oh my god, I remember all these videos, but like one of them will be conspicuously missing. Like it'll be like
Yeah.
8 classic videos, and then like this video has been removed by the creator, and then 20 more classic videos.
The weird thing though is like I don't know how they would display videos that are just like automatically deleted from accounts that are dead, but like I have ran into a lot of like this video has been set to private videos.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And then the accounts are inactive. So I'm wondering if like YouTube just sets those videos to private and then deletes them. I'm not sure.
I could imagine, because
What I
that's
think
like
happens is I think that those are videos where they got like moderately popular, and then 10 years went by and the person was like, I'm fucking tired of getting emails from like Z tier journalists every 3 months, so I'm just gonna because there's always those articles written that are like, this old video that still holds up today, and I'm sure that the people who have those on their channel are like, I fucking hate all these emails I keep getting.
yeah. Hey, you should really start putting a thumbnail on your new videos. It's like, shut up, YouTube. I'm tired of this shit. I work in a factory now. I have a wife and kids.
I don't do this anymore!
I don't do this shit no more. Yeah. Put that shit behind me. Oh, Lovettica, I wanted to mention this before we started to do the podcast. Is I don't know if this is a good or thing to bring up. If you'd be interested in bringing it up, is your when you went off the radar in December of last year. If you wanted to talk about that or not.
When I went off the radar? Oh, you mean
yeah, because you stopped posting for a month, and that's about it.
I did. I think I just had a lot of life stuff going on, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
But the biggest thing for me at the time was I was very much wrestling with my creative process because a lot of my work ties to NSFW topics, and I usually can find fulfillment in a lot of doing a lot of NSFW content. I don't have the problem that a lot of NSFW artists have, where they kind of burn out because they're a lot of their art ties to very horny, very sexually motivated mental states. I draw stuff if I think it's interesting, and a lot of those things happen to be NSFW. But
yeah,
I was a little miserable with the fact that all the content that I create, while it's afforded me the lifestyle that I have where I only work part-time and then do commissions mostly, so I'm grateful for it, but a lot of the people who interacted with my work, and also a lot of the people who are commissioning me, were just insufferable coomers. They were like, I need this.
Trash bags.
Yeah, and I don't mind that because I make money off of coomers. So I'm not angry at them for being coomers, but at the same time, people would come to me and ask me to draw stuff, and I'd just be like, you are waiting dick in hand. This commission is just so horny charged, and then these people are very impatient. They want their porn now. So they'll hit me up every day or two and be like, do you have an update? And I'm like, well, while I understand your enthusiasm, I have a TOS. Like I tell people that like you will probably wait a week or two between updates. That is just the way I work.
Yeah.
I have many other commissions. I like to jump around between them, and I don't want to work on your commission with the like imminent feeling of you breathing down my neck. You know what I mean? That's just the way
Yeah.
I work. But again, my TOS is readily available. People can read it, but they just don't. They just want their porn. So I did kind of drop off, but it was mostly because I was exploring like my safer work ideas that I've been working on for a while, and I don't post those on my normal account. So yeah, I was gone, and also I went to Texas, so there was that for like 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Texas is fun.
Texas was
Besides all
interesting.
the other stuff. You get a Buc-ee's, you go to
I did go to.
Buc-ee's?
My grandmother calls it bussies, and it's
Bussies.
she doesn't understand what a bussy is, so she just says,
Yeah.
"Let's go to bussies," and I'm like, "Grandma, please."
Hell yeah, your grandma's cool as shit.
Yeah, you're like, hell yeah,
I
let's
want
go
to
to
drink vodka with
Bussies.
your grandma.
I don't want my grandma to know what bussy is, so I just never explained it
Well,
to
you
her.
want to bring your grandma.
Well, you have
Femboy
readily
Hooters,
available
right?
examples on your website.
True, I do. I could just link like grandma. Open this link, and it's just my fucking porn account. No.
I just imagine she would like her eyes would go wide and she'd like start rapidly shriveling away and going like
She would.
Yeah, her jaw would literally drop.
Although she lives with my sister.
Her
And
soul
my
would
sister,
get sucked out.
my sister's a furry, like full blown.
Oh, like full
furry,
suit?
Furry. Yeah, like she has
Like,
two suits.
damn.
Um,
Yo, you should show me those.
they're
Those are cool.
pretty cool. And actually, I will say, out of like, if I could pick what kind of furry sister I would have, I probably would pick her again because she's not a weirdo about it. She knows that people
Yeah,
are
she
like,
doesn't have diapers.
yeah, she knows that some people don't like furries, and she tries to like respect that. But we've had conversations before because I used to tease her a lot, and now I make a lot of money off of like furry commissions. And so
Yeah.
a few days ago, I was showing her like the adopts that I had made, and I was like, I had to give this adopt like fat titties, or else it wouldn't sell. And she was like, "You drew a fat titty sheep, and like 3 years ago, you were clowning on me because I was a furry." That's very funny. It's come full circle.
Yeah. Full circle.
By most
Full circle,
definitions,
dude.
including my own, you're now a furry.
Yeah, I mean, I let people make that decision about me because like personally, I don't care.
It's like weebs.
I have furry
Yeah.
characters, so I mean, personally, I think that would qualify me as a furry. But there's a lot of people who would say that I'm not a furry, and I'm just
It's
in
weird.
the furry
There's
community.
to me, furry has you're in the furry community, but not a furry.
Yeah, I don't know.
To-
There's so many people who are gatekeepy about like being
Right?
a furry. It's strange.
I think it goes two ways. There's the people that are gatekeeping, where it's like you're not like us, you don't have a fursuit. And then
You don't crinkle.
The other direction is like the Dan Avidan angle of like, no, a furry means you have to have like the suit and everything because I want to fuck the cartoon animals, but I'm not a furry.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Obviously.
there's so many people who are.
I'm not a weeb, but
They
I want to
cope.
fuck anime women.
Yeah, like there's so much cope going on where they're like, oh yeah, like, I mean,
Yeah.
this sexy wolf lady, I would fuck the shit out of her, but I'm not a furry. Yes, you are. Yes,
Yeah,
you are.
the I'm not a furry butt posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Tom, I wear a cool helmet with like furry ears, and I howl, and then my neighbors get pissed off at me, and then I dream of like a purple skunk, but I'm not a furry. I'm just misunderstood.
You dream of a purple skunk and you say, "This is not metal."
There was that
You know-
that video that was
Yeah.
going around of that girl who approached that guy in the fursuit, and he was like being a dick to her, and she was just like, okay. And then there was like an outpouring of support for like fursuiters because she did nothing wrong. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's more and more examples of like furries being accepted, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I
The thing is,
don't know if
there's
that's a
other
good or
ones-
bad thing. I don't have an opinion about it.
The
But
thing is,
There's
there's other
definitely a
people
win-
that will like fuck it up for those people because
Oh, yeah.
they're walking around in like gimp
Yeah.
suits and shit.
yeah.
When we were at
Or the
we
guys
were,
that fuck animals, like
Mm.
real ass animals.
when we were at the furry convention, we saw a lot of the people that were just wearing like the full fucking BDSM gear in public next to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
10-year-olds, and it was like this event should be 18 plus.
Yeah, it should have. It really should have. I think all of them should have. Like,
Well, yeah, they
across the
should.
board.
But they don't
Honestly-
because they if they did, then they would be admitting that it's a fetish thing, and they don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
I do think that there needs to be cons that are designated for like
Of
younger
course.
fursuiters, because my sister
Yeah.
literally just turned 18. So like these past like 5 or 6 years when she's been going to cons, she's been attending them as a minor, and like the cons that I took her to were like I don't think I saw any like fetish content, but also they were in Arizona, so they were, I mean PDFC is pretty
You,
big, but they were
I
like
think
smaller, I guess.
it's definitely like a state by state case because like I'll say this much. I think with like local cons where it's kind of like, you know how what is it, fucking like Comic Con's not an actual, like, it's not a brand thing, so anyone can have a Comic
Yeah.
Con, right? So you can have a local Comic Con that's very small and it's just very like wholesome and nice. But then it's kind of the same thing with like furries, where it's like you can have a small furry con and it's like wholesome and nice, and people understand kind of what the vibe because they live in that state, and that's why that con exists.
Yeah.
And then the one that me and Tom went to for our artist meetup, because it was just like a cool side thing to do. It's a well-known, established con. It was called Furpocalypse, and yeah, it's just like, especially I think it's because it was like adjacent to New York. It's like I feel like just like those states in general are a lot more like, I guess, just open to like crazy shit,
Yeah.
just because like that's the nature of having so many people like in just one location. When you get like further out to like the west and stuff, it's like everyone's always spread out and stuff like that. So it's more like not niche communities, but more like, you know, we get each other, and there's like, you know, people understand, like, you know, is what it is.
Yeah.
You got to be kind of like, you got to conceal that shit. You got to be like, you know, wholesome.
So remember
Yeah.
the two things that stick in my brain the most are the art event we did where it was like everyone passed their sketchbooks around and drew each other's characters.
Oh, that's cute.
That was actually really fun, and the one thing that I regret not doing while we were there was after midnight they had an 18+ version of that same event where you could like draw porn of each other's characters, and I didn't get to go to that because we like walked around the town or something. Which that
walked
itself,
around town.
well, that itself was a lot of fun. Like I wouldn't
okay.
like trade one for the other, but it was just like I wish I got to do that.
Yeah, I told Tom, like, I think that's a big thing we're gonna do for our next artist meetup if you ever decide to show up with us, Lovettica. But like, because we're having it in Virginia.
Yeah, in August.
Around the summertime. Yeah, the second week of August, roughly. Date to be determined, but that's like a big thing that me and Tom wanted to do for our next artist meetup, is just like get a bunch of sketchbooks for people and just like make that our goal, where it's like, you know, we just draw, have fun, eat good food, and like don't worry about all the weird like side shit. If it happens, it happens. Like, oh, there's this cool little thing out here we can check out.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, one of our pilgrimages we're gonna do out there is we're gonna go to Christian Weston Chandler's house in Virginia,
Oh my God.
Tuckersville, Virginia.
Tuckersville. How angry do you think
So
people get when people walk around that town and go, Tuckersville, Tuckersville,
Tuckersville.
get out of our city!
They're probably
Tom-
especially if they're old, they know like a little bit about it, but they have like that sad
Dude,
old person I don't get things like.
If I lived there, if I lived in that city, I would like, you know how whenever you go to like it's beaches, it's beaches in particular beaches and like tourist towns. There's always like a shop that sells merchandise that's hyper specific to like the theme of the town. If I lived over there, I would own one of those little like shops that was just purely
medallions.
Christian thing. I would sell medallions. I'd sell the striped shirts. I'd sell like prints.
We're gonna make
comics.
medallions and head over to the Christian Weston Chandler's house, and we're gonna pray. We're gonna take pictures.
That's
another thing.
You know what I would do? I would sell like, remember he made all those like song parodies. I'd sell like his song parodies, and the cover would be like the Sonichu like CD cover he drew in college.
Yeah. Or you'd have the just the CD of like him, like, it's me on TV.
I hear you say,
yeah.
I have a girlfriend.
And I think with that, Tom,
Boyfriend,
I think
that's
with that,
what it
I think we
was.
should
I
start
fucked
the
it
podcast.
Yeah.
Now that you've serenaded
just
us.
so you know, I mentioned this before, but I'm gonna remind you. I've been recording this whole time, and I am also recording the Discord audio. So some of what we talked about was pretty good. in case you want to.
Yeah, we
use
can
any
add
of
it. Yeah, I'll do some little editing, but for right now, we got to sync the audio because if we don't,
Yeah.
I'll kill myself trying to edit this together.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to do this, Lovettica, because of how Discord works.
Yeah.
So, me and Tom are going to clap after 3. All right. 1, 2, 3.
That was
clap.
off. Let's do it one more time.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
What the fuck was that? You're like not on time anymore.
All right. I'll do it. I'll do it. No, I'll do it my normal way.
I'll do it
my normal way. I'll do it my normal way. All right. 1, 2, 3.
There you go. Perfect.
There.
Now you have like 3
That's
different
gonna be
peaks.
Fun to sync up later. I was doing it really fast for funny.
You're like fucking Margaret, the fell omen. You're like 1, 2, 3.
All right, so this is how we do it, Lovettica. I usually introduce our podcastee, our member. So if I don't get this on the first try, it's whatever. But I'm gonna be a little bit more loose with this one because last time I wrote a script, and like this time I also wrote a script, but I kind of want to keep it loose, like D&D. So, all right, we'll take it from the top. We're doing it live.
Fuck it, we're doing it live. You like that? What is that? 1998 Bill O'Reilly
We're
reference?
topical here. Yeah. Our guest we have on tonight is someone I've wanted for a long time now because their influence, as well as their ability to create a loving community, as much as they like to not admit, is something that is truly outstanding and awe-inspiring. Their namesake, coming from the holiday that just happened recently, Valentine's Day, really shows and tells you what this creator is truly all about. The fact that they're able to create such awe-inspiring works that rival some of the best artists on the server is truly outstanding. And I guess the only question I really have for Lovettica is, how do you get this way? How are you able to make a living off of art? I think that's what a lot of people want to know.
Well, thank you for that massive introduction. It was beautiful. It was amazing. It was monumentous. I don't think I deserved such an intro, but I will take it. Thank you so much. Hello, I'm Lovettica. I'm a digital and traditional artist, and I do, as you had already said, specialize in commission work. I also do portraiture and graphic design sometimes too. And I would love to share what I do in my daily life to kind of sustain commission work, because I know so many artists. Specifically, I've recently found out that a lot of my friends actually struggle with doing consistent commission work, and it's still something that I'm learning too. I think the most important thing that I have kind of tried to hone in on this past few years is discipline, and making sure that I meet deadlines that I set for myself, because honoring my commitments to myself, not even to my customers or to the people who are expecting art from me, but the commitments that I make on my own, I believe is the most important thing. If you can't fulfill a promise to yourself, you'll never be able to fulfill a promise that you make to somebody else. So when I sit down every day at my desk, I have a plan based on what I need to get done, and most of the time I try to commit to everything that I at least tell myself I want to do. And I think that is the biggest kind of focus that I would recommend for anybody who wants to do like commission work is make sure you have discipline. Make sure you're meeting deadlines. Make sure you're even if you're not delivering the best product or something that you feel is like 100% your best work, at least make sure that you're like honoring those timelines and making sure you're like meeting the promises that you make to other people. I think that is kind of the biggest thing in my opinion.
I mean, and honestly, coming from like firsthand experience, especially when me and Tom talk about this, it's a big thing, and we've talked about this earlier in other episodes of the podcast, but I think it's good to hone in on it again. Is understanding what you need to succeed, especially when it comes to doing like commission work, like Lovettica does, because if you don't break down those barriers to entry for yourself, whether it's having a nice clean room so that you don't have to worry about it and it takes up your time because you're like, oh, instead of doing this commission, I should clean my room, or oh, instead of doing this commission, I should really fucking trim the hedges a bit, or it's something as simple as like what Tom's experiencing right now, which is well, I'll say this much. I think earlier we mentioned this, but Tom, he's finished all of his commissions that he had on his plate that were like years old now. But I think that's an achievement.
They were months, but they were not years.
Months. Okay. But
and
yeah.
Oh my god, you're trying to make him seem dirty. You're like, years, 7 years ago, you took a commission, Tom.
But not only did I finish those up, but now I'm doing more commissions. I have a couple more.
Hell
yeah. But I'm
golf clap for Tom.
I'm starting because of like how I fucked up and like left commissions on the table for fucking months. I'm just doing like $5 ones, super low risk, so I can figure out my work ethic, and then I'll expand into something real.
That's a good idea, actually. I think that is really cool that you're at least like testing the waters in terms of like what you want to do. And $5, people aren't going to like. I mean, obviously, I know you're probably going to honor the commission, but people aren't afraid to lose $5. If they lose $5 at the end of the day for a talented artist to draw them something, I don't think people are that.
Part of why I'm also doing $5 is because you're not bound to much heavy expectation. It's like, I have to make myself feel more comfortable drawing in my own art style for commissions in general, because I always get more worried about, like, I need to make sure this is, like, nice and clean, and I start fucking up. For $5, it's much easier for me to just be like, all I have to do is make sure that the face looks vaguely like their character, and they'll like it, because it's $5. Like, I don't need to freak out and be like, is this on model enough? How on model should I be? How much of it should be my own input? Because I know that, realistically they want it to all be my input. That's why they're hiring me, but it's still like a mental barrier.
That's kind of an interesting thing, because, like, I've kind of struggled with this in the past, specifically with people who are getting commissions from me. And this is a huge thing that, like, I've kind of tried to find my philosophy on. When you have people who are coming to you for commissions, there are going to be people who will make it difficult. It's just going to happen. There are people who will commission you to draw something that looks nothing like your art style, that looks nothing like the subject matter you usually explore, that's nothing like any of the work in your your previous body of work does not relate to what they want. And a lot of the times it's because they can't get commissions from their favorite artists and they think that you have a decent skill level, or they just have a very like staunch and focused idea of exactly what they want from a commission. So like sometimes you're going to get those people who commission you and then go, I don't want it to look anything like your style. I don't want your input at all. I just want you to lay down the lines and I want it to look like what I want. Which, depending on who you are, that could be an amazing commissioner, because there's a lot of people who don't have enough style experience of their own to go, okay, this is my point of view on this topic. They want explicit directions. So I think that's important, is to decide if you are a very opinionated commission artist and you want your vision to also be interpreted through a commission, or if you're a very like, give me directions, I need to know exactly what you want artist as well. So kind of establishing where you are on that spectrum is good too, because if you take commissioners who really want a specific idea and then you freestyle on it, you're gonna have to redo shit and it's gonna piss you off.
For me, I think my dream clients are ones that have very specific ideas. If you give me like, this is the pose I want, this is the mood I want, this is like the situation I want going on, this is the dialogue, but then they give me, but then as far as like the character design goes, it's just a picture of the character. Those are my dream clients, because then it's like I'm a character artist, I can artistically interpret the character however I want. I think pretty good at like looking at a character and picking apart, okay, these are like the notable details about them, this stuff can be left out, this stuff can be exaggerated, and then it'll like really lock in and look like that character. It's like my Isabelle shit, where it's like I go so far from actual Isabelle, and yet anyone can still instantly tell that's Isabelle.
Yeah.
But as for like the details of like that, the pose and that kind of shit, I just want that given to me. because I have fun making that vision, like their vision of what they want to see, and like getting the facial expression and the body position just right to match the like emotion that they want out of the character, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
you can go.
I
Go,
was just
go
gonna
ahead.
I was gonna say, like, my dream client is kind of basically, and they're rare, which is sad, but I like artists that are artist commissioners that come to me and they go, here's my character, here is a general group of topics that I would want you to explore with the commission, do whatever you want. Because I like to design things, I like to plan things, and a lot of the times, if I know that I'm super confident in an idea, it will look great. Like, I know I can dedicate the time it would take in order to fully realize that idea. I've had so many commissioners come to me and say, like, this is exactly what I want, this is exactly what I need you to draw, and these are the characters, these are all the details that need to be included. And most of the time I can pull it off because I know how to follow directions, but the process of creating the drawing is a lot of the times very daunting for me because I don't have any creative outlet. I can't express myself at all. So yeah, I think, like, more limited commissioners, I take very I'm very particular about who I will take. If it's an easy concept that's very particular, I'll usually take it, and if it's super complex, then I might pass it up.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Especially, I can't really say much on the subject as far as like being someone that does commissions for others, but as someone who does pay artists to do a lot of commissions, um, I think it's good to have that kind of view angle. I would say, if anything, I'm kind of more on the side of Lovettica as far as like that's the kind of guy I am, where it's just I mainly just want to see the art that the artist makes, like, full stop. Like, I could care less about any like cool ideas I have. It's more like I just want to see their art. I just want to see more of their art. So that's why I reach out to them. I'm like, hey man, could you just draw this? Anything, like anything. And I know a lot of artists aren't a huge fan of like the leaving it vague kind of mentality. So I do try to like say like I just try to give them anything when they ask for it, where it's just like, hey, do you have like a specific like way you want them like positioned, or do you have like an idea for a background? I'm like, oh yeah, I think this could be cool, and much rather than it's just like a kind of like yes and no kind of conversation with the artist. I think in an ideal world, this kind of works with most, if not all, artists, where it's just like it's like a cool collaborative effort where it's like you build off of ideas from one another, so that way not only you as the client paying for something is satisfied, but the artist is even more satisfied because it's like they made something they're interested in making, so it just makes the quality of the product even better, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I think that every artist is gonna want different input from the client, but like yes, as long as the client is providing what that artist wants, you're gonna have a very beneficial partnership because the client's gonna get something amazing as long as they're aligned with what the artist wants. Not to say like clients should be more in line with what artists want because obviously we're being hired, we're like
Yeah.
Yeah,
fucking.
it's give
But
and
you
take.
know,
And again,
it's
there's a
those are
lot of
always going to be the best
artists.
results.
Yeah. There's a lot of artists that need that they need a like very specific
Exactly. That's what
perspective.
I'm. I guess that's what I
Mm-hmm.
meant. That's why I didn't say give artists the freedom because, like I said, like my dream client is totally different from yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the reason for that is I've always done fan art, so I like having a place to start from and then mold out of that.
Yeah.
So like even something else that would be good is if they give me a character design and then just like a fucking puked lore dump and say this is everything about the character, this is everything they've ever done. Now do whatever you want with them given that context. Then I'm like,
Yeah.
I got it. I understand this character and I can figure out a situation that would work with them well.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
See, that I like. It's funny because we're so different. So if
Yeah.
somebody came into my DMs and said, "This is my character," and they send me an image of their character, and then they proceeded to send me a lore dump about their character, I'd probably be like, "You're insane. I'm not taking your commission." But I think it's interesting that like personally for me, I know I'm very finicky when it comes to liking characters. If somebody has lots of lore fleshed out for their character, it's a toss up if I will even like them or not. And it's just because I'm picky. I know I'm picky.
Well,
And
it's
that's not anything against somebody else's character, but it's more so like I want to be visually interested in the character. I want to look at a character and go, "Oh, I want to draw this character. I would like to interpret this character." And that's not always a requirement
Yeah.
for my commissions, but it definitely does help the process because I'll actually enjoy drawing the thing.
yeah. I think that's another thing with me where it's like my least favorite designs for characters are when they don't have anything that is immediately distinguishable about them other than all like the bangles all over them. Like they have like, oh, they have this super detailed tattoo and 50 pieces of jewelry and very specific hair. But if you like silhouetted the character, you'd be like, what is this? Is just a random anime like Genshin characters are like a great example where it's like this character would never stand out like on their own. This character only stands out because of all these like details.
Yeah.
I like very simple characters that have a couple of definable traits where like it's just like no matter what you did to them, you could tell who it was. And those are my favorite commissions too because I can get really creative with the design. When it's like, you know, there's 50 different very small details on them that I need to make sure I maintain. That's when I'm just like sitting with my head in my hands like, I have to, how am I going to make this look right? Because of the way my art style functions.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, I think as an artist, identifying your strengths and then trying to cater to that clientele is important because, like, there's a lot of things I can't do. Like, for instance, I take a lot of furry commissions. I'm probably not the strongest artist when it comes to furries. Like, only recently have I gotten to a point where I feel like I've made furry content that is, like, decent enough for a furry audience. But, like, I've never I don't know what there's some artists that I interact with that just want commissions because they want to A, make money, and B, be able to create something that somebody wants. And I think that was my problem when I first started was I was taking commissions that I knew I couldn't tackle completely artistically, but I wanted to make something that was going to like impress that person or that they would enjoy. So I felt like that was enough, but it wasn't. I time after time when I first started, I'd do commissions, and they would be garbage. And my commissioner wouldn't tell me that, but I would look back at them and go like, "Wow, this person paid X amount of money for this product, and
That
I'm
reminds
not
me
confident in that."
reminds me of one of the first commissions I ever did, where it was like, it was this thing of I think it was Lapis from Steven Universe sucking Paradox dick, and it was like a fully colored thing. It ended up being $50, and I did that thing I mentioned before where I tried way too hard. I made it way too clean. It didn't fit my art style at all. Probably wasn't what the client was expecting. I was very like stressed out and like hoping like, oh man, I worked so hard on this. I wonder what they'll think. Send them the result. Thanks, and then I never hear from them again. And I was like, I fucked. That was when I realized like I have to just trust my style and like feel it out the way I feel out anything I draw.
Well, and that's the crazy thing too. Like there's a lot. This is kind of a controversial thing to say, but with commissioners, a lot of the times I will create something that I know in certain areas was very half-assed, and I will give it to them, and they will be satisfied with it because they are not artists. And that's not necessarily something.
Wrong with that.
That's not something I advocate for. Like I'm not saying try to fucking like run game on these people. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that our perspective on our art is a lot of the times more we scrutinize our own art more than other people do. And I think there's a lot of commissioners that don't have an artistic eye for things that we do. And so sometimes I think being as like communicative and open with the commissioner will paint you a picture about how particular they're going to be about the commission. If they're not very particular, then don't waste effort in refining small things that you think are important because they're not going to be important to the commissioner. You're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I come from like animation, so I have like a really animation in comics. So I have a very keen idea of like simplification and things that what does and doesn't need to be detailed. So when you say that, in your head you're framing it as, oh, I'm kind of subtly like fleecing them, but to me I'm like, that just sounds like normal. That sounds like you're doing what the focus of the piece is,
Mhm.
and then the other things will get a little bit weaker, but will still, because they're serving the core of the piece. You know, so like an example would be, some art styles I really love are ones where there's one really detailed part, and then everything radiating out from there is less and less detailed. So like an
Mhm.
anime face that's super clean, eyes are just beautiful. They have amazing like eyelashes, this great like detailed mouth, but then like the hair is a little bit messier, the boobs are way messier, and when you get down to like the hands, that all the construction lines are still there and everything, but they're still very satisfying to look at
Yeah.
because those other pieces are serving the central like thing that you're looking at.
Yeah, they're the framework. They're not the central idea,
Yeah.
right? I think something to kind of hone in on, especially with you, Lovettica, is like, because definitely me and Tom are a lot more. We're a lot more. I'm not like old school, kind of like we got to keep posting and we got to keep like doing stuff and keep making it. It's more like I'll say this much, Lovettica. I've definitely noticed with your art specifically is you do a lot of really good rendering, and that's something me and Tom do not do. We do not render like a lot. Um, and it's really awe-inspiring, especially when I look at you as well as like another person on this server, MG or Grand as they're known on this server. But honestly, Lovetica, when I see your work, it reminds me a lot of Grand's work, and I'm like, whoa, like this makes me feel good, like looking at your art, and I can definitely see where you're coming from, where it's like not a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people in general are not huge into like the the like full rendered art,
No.
and because it inherently costs more, right?
Mhm.
Because it takes more time to work on, and I think it's important to still offer that to like the broader community. But I think as a whole, when we look at it just from like a simple like economic standpoint, right, it's there's a vast majority of people out there. The vast majority of people aren't exactly wealthy, it's middle
Yeah.
class, middle of the road. And the people who do want that detail, do want that like amazing art, tend to be the people with heftier pockets or have money that they're willing to spend. And that's great, but you can't just rely on those people, and you can't rely on yourself to go out of your way to make like insanely good rendered art for like super cheap, because
Oh
that's
no.
not fair to
Yeah.
you. And it's like it doesn't work like at all, like cost, not even like time wise, just like it's not even like cost effective in like any sense of the word, because there's just no way to get faster at rendering. Like you can get good at it and get really good at it, but there's just no way to like feasibly make it to where, because like I think like call me crazy, but I'm like genuinely I think if you're gonna make a really good rendered piece, you have to like work on it for like 3 days straight if you're really like going hard to try and finish it like in like a really short time period. And even then it's like I think it takes even longer, and that's just coming from someone who's seen other artists kind of do the work that you do, Lovetica. And it I can definitely see how it's very daunting, especially when you're an artist starting out who cares about that kind of stuff, cares about details, cares about just rendering stuff, and then you don't have an audience that's willing to pay for it because it either costs too much money or it costs too much time, and then you can't either build up a fan base, or you can't even build up like people to buy your art, and it can be very like demotivating. But I think what a lot of artists need to do is just like just keep on, and just like I think honestly, Lovetica, I think you're a really good example of like the best of both worlds, because I've noticed that you've been recently making simplified art,
Mhm.
as me and Tom would put it, where it's your main focus is more on the kind of framework, not necessarily like the render work, and that's extremely important. I think not only to just like keep the word out about like who you are as an artist or like what you're doing, but also I think it's just good in general for people to get like a grasp on like oh, this artist does like a lot of things. They don't only just do like these amazing like hand painted like cool characters. They also do like these fun sketches, or they do this, and that's neat too. And I don't know if you wanted to get in on this, but uh, for those who didn't know, Lovettica kind of took a small breather, which I think is healthy for a lot of artists, in December of last year. And I don't know if you wanted to kind of go in on that about why you did that, but I think it'd be a lot. I think it'd be interesting for the viewers to kind of know what you got up to.
Yeah, yeah. I think around that time I was going through a little bit of kind of a reset in terms of art because um, a few weeks before December, I think it was sometime in either early November or late October. I my Twitter account was suspended, and I realized that I relied a lot on the audience to generate income because I only had a part-time job. So I started to reevaluate the way I was marketing myself and the choices that I was making in terms of my business. Because I wasn't really taking it seriously as a business. I was essentially drawing online. And it took me getting suspended on Twitter to help me realize that I rely on this hobby that I do for actual income that keeps me alive. Like, it really keeps me alive. Like, I pay bills with it, I get food with it. It's a lot more serious than I was treating it. And so I had started an alt account around like late November, early December, and then I had gone on a trip, so I was kind of I wasn't really focused. And on the trip, my account was actually reinstated. So it was kind of it was interesting. A lot of other artists at the time were also getting suspended on Twitter because of some sort of like bot issue, I guess. And a lot of my friends had got suspended, and they were really upset. And I felt for them because they generated income from those accounts, but I wasn't too upset, and I think it was because I knew I wasn't taking it seriously. And it was kind of a lesson I needed to learn. So I went to Texas, and I was kind of expecting my account to just stay suspended, but it was reinstated, luckily. And in that time, it kind of taught me that um, I needed to look at this thing that I've been doing as a hobby as more of a business. And I need to take it seriously, not only for my benefit, but for the benefit of my clientele. So I kind of went through an overhaul. I went through a little bit of a rebrand. I made new imagery for my account. And I started to kind of lay out my expectations for my work. So I needed a creative outlet. I need it to generate money. And I also want it to explore concepts for other people that they can't do on their own because they need an artist to commission it rather than making it themselves, which is primarily what I do. And I wanted to focus on those things equally and not neglect anything because that's how burnout sets in. Um, and I actually like recently reevaluated my price structure because, as you were saying, like having people commission full rendered works isn't terribly common. But what's interesting is I actually have a decent amount of clientele that want fully rendered works. And a lot of the times they're people who don't have a lot of money. I actually had somebody recently join my Patreon who then messaged me on Patreon and said, "Hey, I'm in $10,000 worth of debt because of commissions, and I'm gonna have to unsubscribe from your Patreon." And I was like,
What?
yeah. And I was like, well, I mean, by all means, do what you have to in order to make sure you're okay. Like, I'm not expecting you to continue giving me money on Patreon. That's a privilege. I'm glad that you even wanted to support me in the first place. But like, do what you want with your money. This is your choice. And I essentially like had to tell them like, do what you want to or whatever. And then after that, after they unsubscribed from my Patreon, they came back like 2 weeks later and they were like, I would like a commission. And so this is kind of a strange moral conundrum that I ran into, but like when it comes down to running a business, you are a business person. You need to make money in order to support yourself. If there is someone who is coming to you and you know they have financial issues or they share that with you, that is not your problem. They need to not commission art if they are going to sink. So at the end of the day, I did the commission for them. They probably didn't have any more money to use, and they were in a very bad place, clearly, because they had $10,000 worth of debt, but I did still do their commission. Because I'm not their parent. You should know that you're drowning. Stop commissioning.
Yeah, and I'll say this much, because I don't know if you know this, Lovettica, but even though I don't make art for people like to make money off of, I myself used to have my own local business of doing house renovation, carpentry stuff, and we talked about this earlier on the podcast where it sucks, especially when you're young, like me and Tom, and I'm assuming you as well, because like it's just how it is, where you're young and you don't really understand what's kind of going on, and so when you are working for someone, like you're fixing a sink or you're just like remodeling a kitchen, right? And you feel like you have to do more, or you feel like you have to throw a bone to someone because, oh man, just because I'm remodeling their thing, I need to build a good rapport. I need to like be better. I need to do more. And then the problem really sinks in when you realize that the things you are doing more for these people, you being generous and throwing them a bone, is screwing you like completely on the back end, where it's like the whole reason you're self-employed to begin with isn't to do charity work. It's so that you can support you, yourself, as well as the people around you, and to, build a livelihood that allows you to make more work and like provide for more people, whether that be increasing your business, hiring more people, or just being more efficient and understanding like the cost of just doing stuff. And it definitely sucks when you get into this being self-employed and being your own boss stuff, because it's very dicey, and especially when it comes to art, because let's be completely blunt, art it's frivolous as far as like an expenditure goes, right? Getting your house remodeled is also frivolous, I'll say.
Yeah.
But getting your like sink fixed, that's less frivolous. That's more like, I need that because I don't know how to do it, and if I did do it, I'd probably break it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it is really dicey. But like Lovettica said, this person knew what they had to morally do, which was right, which was to stop spending money on art. And then literally 2 weeks later, they went straight back to it. And it's not like Lovettica's a fucking crack dealer, right? It's completely opposite. It's like this person of sound mind is being the whale. And we've talked about this earlier about especially with like loot boxes in video games and the kind of rise and slow fall of that's starting to happen, where yes, it sometimes is like children that are like spending money on loot boxes and then a big news story pops out, but the vast majority of people losing money in these like frivolous acts are adults of sound mind, just spending their money willy-nilly and not realizing that going into debt, going into like insane amount of debt just for something that's vanity at the end of the day, right, is not good at all. But it's not, this sounds shitty, and it always does, but it's not our responsibility as artists to be, the ones deciding like, no, this poor person can't have my art because they'll get more poor. Yeah, I'm gonna gatekeep this. Only rich billionaires can have my art, so that way they can launder money. It's like, that doesn't make for good art, and it doesn't make for like it makes for exclusivity, and it makes for a really bad business at the end of the day, because let's be honest, people do sometimes go into small amounts of debt to fund bigger projects, and it's a necessary evil of just being in, capitalism. But like, I go into debt, I use credit cards to fix my car, but like, the mechanics not getting like all teary-eyed and being
Yeah.
like, you know what, man, I'm sorry you're in debt because we had to fix your car so
mean-
you could like make more money. This one's on the house, bub. And
It's
like,
not like
that never
you-
happens.
Yeah, but it's not like you're a car fixing addict where you keep breaking your car on purpose so that
Yeah.
you can keep bringing it back to the shop.
I'm not a thrill junkie. I'm not like one of those people that needs to break their arms to get more pills. You're saying I'm not that, Tom?
I mean, we
All
don't
I'm
know.
saying
You
is-
could be breaking your car
Yeah.
on purpose, actually.
Yeah. Well, fucking, if you look at my insurance premiums, you'd think. But goddamn, I've never been in an accident once.
I think that
Freaking raking me through
For-
the coals.
if it was me, if you have, let's say you have a pick of multiple commissions, you know, you have more than you can do lined up, and you have two people that you need to pick from, and it's the person who you know can't afford it, and the person who you know can. I think morally you should just be like, I will choose not to do that. It's kind of the same as like with casinos. Gamblers can go to the casino and say, I want to self-exclude. I want to make it so that you guys will no longer take my money. And then the next time they show up to the casino will say, no, we will not take your money because you signed this thing that says you want to self-exclude. That's probably subtly what that person was trying to do when they told you, hey, I need to quit your Patreon.
Maybe.
I mean, if they were
But also-
explicit about the fact that they didn't want to get commissions from me anymore, then I mean, that would be different. But they were saying, I'm leaving your Patreon, which, by the
Yeah.
way, was only $5 a month because they are in debt from commissions. And then they
I'm not
came
saying
back to me
you're
and
wrong
just,
for.
No, I know. But I'm
allowing
just
them.
saying, like, if they were more explicit, I probably would have been like, dude, I'm not doing a commission for you. But that being said, if it was between their commission and a commission that was more complex from somebody who could afford it, I'm picking their commission because it's easier to do, and my turnaround time for it is going to yield me more money.
Mhm.
I'm a business.
And then, you know-
I know that sounds horrible, but I'm a business. I need to eat too.
And then let's be like clear, Tom. Like, I think at the end of the day, like all random businesses at the end of the day have different moral compasses of what they will and won't do. And I think that's just fair to just expect different things from different people. I think what's really important is to be not necessarily understanding, but know where. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we can all agree making money to support yourself is kind of like the end all be all of what business is for.
Yeah.
It's for putting bread on the table, and it is morally dubious, I'll say.
I'm
It's
just
very
saying that
hard
ethics
because,
don't go out the window the second money gets involved.
yeah, according to some.
Well,
maybe,
would
but-
you like stomp on a
Yeah,
puppy for
but-
$1? Like,
Well, there were people that did that. Like, that's not even like a joke, but they did get arrested for it later.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm just saying, like, you can
moral-
be ethical.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at the end of the day, it's hard, right? Because it's even grander than that, right? Because I'm just spitballing here, like Lovettica is probably the same way as us, where it's like, living kind of paycheck to paycheck, or just like slowly building up that savings, and it's like, it's not like we're exactly like millionaires. We're not fucking like Trump, right? It's like,
Yeah,
everyone's
I mean,
doing what they got to do to survive.
I
And
would say that,
yeah,
like, you were talking about, like, whales for mobile games and shit, and I would say
Mhm.
that the companies that make those games are extremely unethical because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
specifically hiring... I would say it's just these stupid people. No, these are designed to be extremely addictive. They're doing the same thing the gambling industry does and trying to hook
Yeah.
people so that they'll spend millions of dollars. Like, they'll spend thousands of dollars and burn their kids' like college funds because they're so addicted. I don't
Yeah,
think that
it-
we're
this is-
capable of that being individual artists.
yeah, but I'll say this much: it's not like an apples to like oranges comparison. I don't think. Like, at the end of the day, I think, EA is definitely like the nuclear
Yeah.
bomb, and like artists were
Yeah.
more like the cigarette burn that your dad gives you because he's a shitty dad.
The thing
Like,
that's-
right?
I
Like-
guess it's a rough thing because there's a difference between EA, which is a centralized company that is siphoning individual people for lots of money, versus like the breadth of all artists, where it's like, oh, this person isn't going to one artist and dropping thousands of dollars all at once. They're going to like 1,000 different artists and spending
Yeah.
$20 on each.
But I think
Which
it's
is
also
like,
important to like.
you know.
It's also important to understand this, Tom. It's like people who are buying loot boxes aren't like spending all their money on all the loot boxes at once.
Yeah,
What they're
well,
doing is
yeah.
they're doing like small things. They're like spending $20, $40, $50 like every time they get their like paycheck
I
in,
guess
and then it slowly
it
increases,
would
and it
be
just gets
like
worse
if
and worse.
it would be like if instead of spending all their money on one loot box, or one game rather, they were jumping from like every different app store game on the market and spending $50 on each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's harder to
I
be
mean, yeah.
like, how do you regulate it at all? Clash of Clans can self-exclude people, but like you can't do that for every single artist on like an entire platform.
Well, you can't even do that with video games. There's no.
Mhm.
I mean, video games don't even
That's
self-regulate.
true.
That's why
That's
there's such a big
true.
problem. Yeah. And
I think that some states are trying to make that a thing where like, well, mostly the loot
well,
box stuff is
China's
just
trying
getting.
to just get rid of them outright.
Yeah, I mean,
We
a
talked
few
about it earlier.
U.S. states have done that too, where they've just banned loot boxes in general. But like, I think that some states are trying to get that middle ground option where there's the option to, self-exclude the way that the gambling industry
Yeah, it's
has.
the cigarette branding mentality where it's like this thing gives you cancer. We put like disgusting cancer lungs on them, but you can still buy them.
No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, like I mentioned before, you can go if you are a gambling addict, you can go to the casino and say, "I want you to exclude me," and then they will no longer let you gamble there. Even though you're you're one of their biggest cash cows, they will no longer ever let you gamble at that casino again. But these apps
Yeah.
don't have that. You just delete the app and then you get the itch and you re-download it.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, right? Because let's be honest, the vast majority of people aren't gonna self-regulate themselves. They're not gonna do the great thing. They're not gonna brush their teeth every day, right? So at the end of the day, it's up to you, the individual, the artist who's making money, to decide on
Yeah.
what is morally right or dubious to you. And if that means making like a yes and no list for specific things, where it's like this person told me that they're like this amount in debt, I guess you know what, even if they do ask me, I'll still do what they want because they're asking for it. Or if it's like, nope, I'm not gonna do that because I wouldn't even feel good accepting their
Yeah.
money. I mean, that's why I don't do commissions at all, is because as someone who's been a business owner who's done like work for like real ass people, like building real ass shit, like real physical objects that need like money to like back them up, right? It's a world of difference when you like go to a person's house and you see how they live, and you're in a hoarder's house and you fix their like kitchen up, and you're like and you just get like kind of a little depressed, and you're like, I don't even want to accept money from this guy because it's just like this is something I should have just done for free. Or it's like, because at the end of the day, for someone like me, it's really hard just because of how much of a goober I am, and I understand that about myself at this point in my life, where it's like I just can't accept money from people because I just feel bad all the time about like getting money from doing something that I would have done already, right? So for me, my moral compass has always been like I'd much rather do than receive, and that's just who I am as an artist and who I am as a person. And that's not like to be like, oh, look at me, I'm like an angel, you guys should really love me. It's more like, no, this is a real detriment to me because I can't make money off of art. Like I could be making so much money doing like really good art for people, but I just don't do it because it's just not who I am. And it's not good. It's not good for my bank account, I'll say that much. I'll say this much: I'm a little. I could be making more money. I could be doing more stuff, but I'm not doing it because it doesn't gel right with me. I wouldn't feel right getting that money. It's the kind of the same way with not to get personal here, but it's the same thing with how I take care of my grandma right now. It's like I don't expect to get anything out of return for like helping my grandma out, just like living with her, taking care of her, taking the trash out. It's more like the thing I expect to get out of my grandma is the fact that I'm spending time with her when, time is very limiting and limited, when it's like when you want to be with these people that aren't going to be around for like it could be tomorrow, that's the last time I'll ever see my grandma, or it could be 10 years from now. It's like I'd much rather just have the security knowing that I spent as much time as I possibly could with this person I care about, rather than being like, yeah, I'm just taking care of the broad because like I'll probably get put into the will. It's
Yeah.
like that's not that's shitty. It's like goddamn, you know. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, I think like overall, morally, I definitely, I would at least like to say that I am somewhat morally scrupulous. I don't want to put somebody out of house and home because they want a commission. But I also am not. It is not within my mental capacity to weigh if somebody else is doing something wrong with their money. You know what I mean? Like that just isn't bandwidth that I can spare in my daily life, especially being somebody who has to. I mean, I survive off of a luxury good. I survive off of people wanting to pay me to doodle things, which I am extremely grateful for. It's been an amazing way to validate the fact that I, as a person, I mean, I've poured almost my entire life into learning how to draw, and I think being able to show something for it is so important to me. And for a long time, it was a cool party trick. I can draw. Oh, you want me to draw you? I'm good at portraits. I could draw you a portrait. And then one day I realized people want to pay people for this stuff. So, like, being able to, like, actually monetize this is it's very fulfilling, and it's very validating because I spent so much time, like, not doing other things and drawing when I could have, like, I don't know, been going to parties or like trying out another profession or something.
Yeah.
So, like, at the end of the day, I really can't determine if somebody is fucking up their financial stability because of something. Like, I just I gotta get my money. I need to eat. I gotta go on to the next one. But that had only occurred once. I don't think I've had anybody else be so open about their financial situation. I have had people tell me, like, secondhand that there are some commissioners that are, like, paying a lot of money for a lot of commissions, and they probably are either rich or in a very bad financial place. But I've never had a commissioner so readily offer their, like, financial woes to me like that. It was very jarring. I was like, what? Oh my god. And then they just came right back, like, hey, hey, what's up?
Yeah, it's wacky. Also, like, coming from, because, like, my mom was one of those people for the longest time. Like, she had like 6 credit cards, was constantly in debt, and it's not like, it's like what those fucking dweebs on YouTube who, like, say, like, getting in debt's good because I was able to, like, invest in this and that, and it's like, yeah, okay, guy with sunglasses, who has crypto, but, like, also, I think, even though debt is kind of good to build good credit, it's also one of those things that can creep up on you like a sickness, and
Also,
you don't realize like how bad it is until it gets really bad.
All good credit is really for is being able to get even more debt.
It's for getting a dishwasher and then paying it off. It's an IOU. That's what it was meant to be.
What I mean is, like,
people have used and abused it.
Having a good credit score just means that now you have the ability to borrow more money.
You know what's crazy?
Though at a slightly better rate.
Recently, I learned that the credit system as we know it today was only introduced in the 80s.
That's because of MasterCard and shit.
Yeah, I just think that's crazy because for some reason I had thought the credit system had been around a lot longer. I was thinking it was something that was, like, fundamental to, like, our commerce.
Versions of it have been
to stores.
Versions of the idea of, I mean, like, money itself is credit. So the idea of credit's been around since as long as the idea of money's been around, but, like, the extremely, like, systematized version of it where you have an exact score is new.
Well, yes, so the reason for that, just a little history lesson for all you gamers out there. I know how much we love talking about history on this podcast for artists, but, so credit as we know it, it was technically, well, not as we know it, but as we used to know it, was more of an IOU system. The same way, you giving your debit card information to, like, a guy at the gas station was an IOU method, because what someone would have to do with the older systems was call up your bank and be like, hey, I have an IOU from this guy who has a debit card through your bank. Does he have the money? And if their bank is like, yes, he has the money, here's the money. And it's like, well, then that gas station gets the money. And the biggest problem that happened when we started to, like, get really into, like, the automobile, dishwashers, clothes dryers and all that stuff. The biggest problem was those big ticket items costed like an exorbitant amount of money, and unless you were one of these like hoarders who just like had a shit ton of money in the banks, it was less likely you were gonna buy it. And also, if you were just like old fashioned, why would you buy a dishwasher? You know how to wash dishes. It's not hard, and so there was like there was no reason to buy new technology. So what ended up happening was stores who had this like a shit ton of like these new technologies were like, well, okay, well, if I do an incentive for people to buy the thing, so hey guy, here you can have credit in my store, much like a bar tab, where you get the cool item and you get to use it, and it saves so much time for you that it pays for itself. And by the time you have enough money to like slowly pay me over time, it's paid for itself. You've saved so much time with this dishwasher that it's like you're wasting money not buying this dishwasher. And so that's kind of how that kind of worked out for the longest time. And the biggest problem with that system, though, is you can have swindlers, as they're known, where they just go to different stores that are completely mom and pop places. They just get a dishwasher and they get credit at the store, and they just never come back. Like they just fucking run town. And it also happens a lot with there's this like one interesting story about a group of guys who, what they would do is, because they knew how the bank systems work, where it was like a 7-day process period and banks weren't open on like the weekends or whatever. So what they would do is they would get a car. They would get they couldn't buy the car right away, so they would get they'd be indebted to the car lot by using credit, and so they would just drive off the lot. And then the guy who sold them the car was like, they're not going to pay any of their shit. They're not going to do any of this stuff. They're not even going to give me a down payment or whatever. So what they would do is then they would call the police and try to arrest the guys that like clearly were doing like some weird fraudulent stuff. But then what ended up happening was the group of guys did do the payments and did pay for the car. And so what ended up happening was those guys then ended up suing the car dealership for like giving a false claim to like the cops about their unruly behavior. And then they would earn so much money back from suing the car dealership that they were able to not only pay for the car but also pay for like their tuition for college. And the only reason that was a thing you could do was because
scam.
Yeah, it was a very elaborate scam, but it worked because of how slow the systems were put into place, because nothing was digital yet. Everything was over the phone. And, you had to rely on people being at the actual bank to, like, know if someone was actually going to pay something or not.
Not to mention,
so there's, like, weird stuff like that.
There's also probably just the idea that, like, people didn't trust the system because it was new. So it was much easier to, like, fuck with people through them not trusting it. It's almost like, it's kind of the antithesis of the way, like, a crypto scam works, where you can scam people easily because people trust it too much. If people distrust a system that does work well, then you can use that just as well to scam them, because you're like, oh, well, I know this system works just fine. They think it's iffy, so I can use my knowledge to get one over on them.
Yeah, and it works. So, yeah, if you can ever figure out a way to use that kind of history for your art, good on you. Figure out how to scam people with art. Yeah. That's what crypto people did, right?
Pretty much.
So,
well, that's the weird thing with crypto people, is they didn't scam people using art. They scam people using the idea of art as an investment vehicle, which isn't really a real thing unless you're, like, ultra wealthy.
Yeah, or you work for, like, Sotheby's or something.
Yeah. That's the thing that's, like, people... See, okay, the whole, like, scarcity thing has always been interesting to me, because you can just debunk that whole... I know crypto is dead, so this is, like, irrelevant, but, it always made me think, well, why would this, like, Bored Ape be valuable? Well, because there's only one of it. It's like, yeah, there's only one of, like, my pencil drawing of, like, a sun next to the Empire State Building from when I was 6. Is that,
and it has
like,
sunglasses
valuable?
Because it's cool.
The sun also has sunglasses.
Right.
And is wearing a Pickle Rick bong. Is that, should that be worth, like, $1 billion? No. Just because there's one of it? Like, who cares? There's just one of it. There's only one of this shit I took this morning. Like, what are you talking about?
Scarcity goes hand in hand with demand. and there is no demand for NFTs.
Yeah.
So the scarcity is not to be believed, literally.
Well, in the
think...
the poop community, Tom, that would be called Scat City because of your poop.
Not to
Scat
mention...
City? Isn't that the city in Cyberpunk?
I hope.
No, it's Night City.
Oh, I thought it was called
pray.
Scat City. What?
Scat City, Fitty Stitties, you know?
Fucking
Oh my God, was that a bar? Did you just deliver us a bar? What was...
Yeah, I might be a bit of a rappist.
Oh.
I rap people a lot.
But like it also,
I do love rap.
it's also like, you know, like the NFT collections, how it was always the same drawing with slight variations.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Mona Lisa would have been as valuable as it was if there was 10,000 other Mona Lisas where she was wearing different hats?
No, it's only famous because it got stolen twice.
See,
that's why people like it.
That's the funny thing is like it's so funny that the most tasteless chuds on planet Earth thought, we could create art to scam people, and then proceeded to make like the worst functioning art for that purpose. It's ugly. It's unappealing.
And it worked.
Nobody asked for it. Well, yeah,
and everyone bought it.
It worked in the chud community. There was just
man.
It was a circle jerk show.
No, because you're wrong. You say this is the worst way to scam people for art. No. It's the best way to scam people with art. If you like made actual delicately made good art, you'd have to pay a lot of artists a lot of money. You'd have to make a lot of assets, and you need to only sell.
But that's work, Tom.
You only need
that
to
costs
sell.
money.
Then it's not a scam. If it's work, then it's not a scam.
Well, here's the thing. It's the worst. The art is the worst. The art is bad.
Yes.
Like just from they're asking us to value the art, correct? So a lot of people who invested in crypto were investing in the possibility of making more money later. It never had anything to do with the art. So from an artist perspective,
exactly.
I'm like, this is garbage. Like, this is the worst art I've ever seen. NFTs, I would say NFTs are even worse than AI. Like, AI looks better than NFTs. How did you do that?
100%, of course.
Well, my NFT AI art that I'm using right now is making serious dollar bills.
I hope
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if like AI art and like if AI art had like come out a little bit earlier, or if NFTs had died a little bit later, how much like AI NFTs there'd be?
Oh my god.
Oh my god, it'd be genius.
It would be horrendous. We'd see so many screenshots every day of like an AI piece. It's like AI Luffy NFT, and then his eyes all fucked up, and then people like screenshot it on Twitter and they're like, "This NFT has a fucked up eye." That'd be
Do you remember
my AI
discourse.
Do you know Coffeezilla?
I don't.
Oh,
you always ask.
Oh man, you gotta check him out. He does like investigations of massive scams. He started out doing kind of like oh look at this guy who like scammed people for like a few $1,000s with an NFT thing, but he's like ascended recently, and now he's like actually breaking stories on like $500 million Ponzi schemes and shit. It's incredible. He's one of the best like journalists of this generation.
Wait, what's his name?
Coffeezilla. He's been on like a few podcasts and shit if you want to like watch those to get like a kind of rundown of who he is. But basically, so for one of his videos, as like one of his like side projects, because he'll bounce back and forth between I'm investigating this $1 billion scam and like working with law enforcement and shit, and I'm fucking around and messing with some YouTuber that did a scam. And for one of his like YouTuber ones was basically there was this, what is he, wrestler. He was a professional wrestler who was like promoting a lot of NFT scams on his site, on his Twitter. But when Logan Paul got called out by Coffeezilla for his like CryptoZoo thing, he posted a tweet that was like, "Oh, I feel bad for Logan Paul's fans, man." Like trying to virtue signal, even though he had been posting scams. So Coffeezilla put together his own like fake crypto scam and was just like, let's see how much it costs to hire this guy to post about my fake scam. He hired him. I think it only cost like $5,000 or something to get a 24-hour tweet. He put up this page that was supposed to link to some crypto like pump and dump scam, but just as he uploaded it, he changed the website, so instead it linked to a thing that run down, hey, here's all the scams that this guy has run in the past.
That's hilarious.
And he got the guy to sign a contract, which the guy didn't read, which meant he had to keep it up for the full 24 hours.
That's
And it was
genius.
fucking amazing.
That's great.
The best part
I
of
love
the
that. Well, speaking.
The best part of the contract was that he literally wrote in the contract, "You are the butt of a joke. I will change the link so it goes to this other website." He's just like, "I'm in." And the best
That's
part,
amazing.
not the best part. The reason I brought it up in the first place is, he was like, "Well, to make this convincing, I need like to make it look like I have actual NFTs that I'm selling on this like stupid shitty thing." And the way he did it was he used like one of the early image gen AIs, like Stability AI or something, to just shit out like a bunch of garbage candy drawings. And it was like, "Yep, these are my NFTs." And the guy was like, "All right, I'm in. I'll sell anything you give me."
Hell yeah.
It was
Well, speaking of
fascinating.
scams, Tom, I have a cool like reverse funnel system I got going on right now. It coincides with this podcast where we get a bunch of artists. So this is how it works, right? I get 2 artists, they get 2 artists, and then those 2 artists get 2 artists. And what happens is they start making commissions that I give them, but then I get a cut of like, I don't know, let's say like 80%. But the higher up the rung you are, the more percentage you get based on the commissions I give you. And so that way, it's a reverse funnel system. So all the cash flow goes to everyone, and it's a reverse funnel. You understand what I'm saying, Tom? I think that's really where art's heading to right now. Is that
Wow. You
Okay,
have your
no.
finger on the pulse.
Don't say
Yeah,
that.
no, can I really talk
By the way-
about why the podcast is the way it is? So like, it's all spawned from this fascination I've had with pricing schemes, specifically with artists, right? Because it's just it's this weird kind of conundrum I have in my head. Especially, I think everyone's had this like thought, and then they've just left it to the wayside. Where it's like, how do you price something that is by definition art, right? Because like that's two confounding variables. That's like, well, it's art, so it shouldn't cost anything, but also it's work, so it should cost something. And then that kind of put me down this downward spiral of being like, well, why do artists price the things that they make, and why are they this much compared to an artist that does, let's say, verbatim basically the same thing, and why are they different? And I think what I've been discovering specifically on this podcast is a lot of artists tend to have different workflows, as well as like times and places and availability, on top of like how fast they can get something out, as well as what the quality is, right? And so there's not really like a good, like, I can't make like a cool flow chart, right, of being like, oh, okay, so if you do this art and it takes you this long, and it's specifically this, you should be charging roughly around this figure because of this, that, and yeah, and it just works because it's not like you're flipping burgers for someone. It's not like you can be like, well, it costs this much for the fucking burger patty, so at the very least, I need to make a return on investment on that, and then on top of labor costs, it's like you can't do that with art. It's like it's just too many too many confusing variables to like really understand like why art is priced the way it is. I think, and also on top of that, I think the fact that you could charge a ridiculous, like we've seen this especially in the furry community, where it's just like there's definitely some outliers in the
Miles
furry
DF.
community that make who make like make it their goal, I'd say, to like charge ridiculous sums of money just because of the very like nature that they can, and like there's no like rhyme or reason to it besides of the fact that
it's whatever the market will bear. You just charge
exactly. Yeah,
Miles
it's
DF charges $3,000 for his YCHs, and the YCH is literally like your character's thumbnail in like the back of the like image. Like it's like the smallest snippet of an image, and it's like and he'll sell like 7 or 8 YCHs in one image. So he's making like fucking 5-6 figures off of one image.
Going back,
gangbang art.
Going back to what you were talking about before, though, if people are willing to pay for it.
Oh yeah, no. See, that's the thing is, I mean, it's an egregious amount of money, but if there's demand for it, by all means, like, what am I gonna do to stop Miles DF from charging that much? If I don't believe that his art is worth that, that's my opinion. That has nothing to do with his prices. That doesn't affect him. So I definitely think, I mean, by all means, more power to him.
Mm-hmm.
It hones in back to what you said, Tom, earlier in some of the other podcasts, where it's like there really is no competition when it comes to art at the end of the day, because what you can provide to someone is literally, technically, infinitely anything, right? If you really got good at anything you wanted to, which you can do, it just takes time. Technically, you can provide anything that anyone else can provide on any platform. And in fact, you could charge cheaper, and you could you could gouge people as well. And it's like, at the end, it's up to the customer who's like, well, I really like this person because they're down to earth, so I'm just going to spend as much money as they demand.
Well,
and it's like, yeah, okay.
The reason I said that competition isn't that much of a factor is not because of that, but almost because of the opposite. It's that if, at least as long as you have, a very unique art style, because I know that this might not hold true for certain people that have, I don't want to say generic art styles, but more common, like people who do realism, for example, people who do portraiture. Like, you do portraiture more or less one way. There's variations, but if you're doing realistic portraits, you're competing with other portrait makers. But, like, for the kinds of work that we do, where there's very clearly, like, a style that comes through, an art style is like a fingerprint. Like, a lot of the time I can tell an artist drew something, one artist out of thousands that I'm aware of, just based on subtleties of how they drew it, even if it's in a different art style than their usual. That's why, like, people will come to a person for their commissions, because something about their style in particular clicked with their brain more so than anyone else, and there's no way you can engineer that. That's just inherent. Yeah. At least if I commissioned art, that's what it would be. It would be like, for whatever reason that I cannot explain, this particular art style clicks with my brain in a way that others didn't, and I want to see you draw this thing in that style.
Yeah, and just on top of that, I think it's also just a numbers game, right? Where it's like, there is very obviously, I think it's just because of the nature of, I guess, creativity, or just like, not to sound fucking elitist or anything, but I think it takes a lot of like balls to not only be like an artist, but then to also be a confident artist, and then a confident artist that's willing to make money off of their art, right? I think that's a fair assumption. And if you like apply all those like technicalities together, it makes for like very few artists just in general willing to make money making art for a very specific person. And so I think just in general, there's just more commissionees than commissioners, or is that right? Or there's more people making art for others rather than, no, there's more people paying for art rather than people making art for others, which is why you will most of the time see, like, when you look at a Twitter bio, be like, yeah, I can't accept commissions right now. Or like you talk to a friend who's like, dude, I finally got a slot in for this one commission person. Or why people on Patreon who have patrons to begin with is so that they can know the people that actually want the commission, because they'll be like, hey, Patreons get first pick of the litter if they want a commission. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense, because it's just like, if the demand is really just, it's always been high. I think even it's ridiculous that demand is high now of all times, especially like during COVID and stuff too, where it's just like, people just have always wanted to spend money on art now. I think just because of the nature that everyone can make money. It used to be, because fucking Tom's a history buff and he always likes to autocorrect me, but it used to be, if you were like a rich church, you were the only person commissioning art because you got vast sums of wealth and you were morally dubious. You're like, hey guy, can you paint the Sixteenth Chapel for me? It's like, okay. Why not? I'll put some baby dicks on there.
Well, that's why it's called Patreon, because it's supposed to be the modern version of like old school patronage.
Yeah, and it works.
This is such a fucking tangent. It won't even last that long, but it's just funny. I always, whenever I think about like old 1600s like Renaissance art that was like sponsored by churches and stuff, I always think of the church in like the 1600s that they sponsored some artists to build a statue of Lucifer to place outside of their, like, cathedral.
Oh.
But the artists made Lucifer, like, too sexy. So they were like, well, we can't use this. He just looks like too good. So they commissioned, I think, his brother. And then the brother made an even sexier Lucifer. And they were like, God fucking damn it. Why do we keep hiring, like...
Lucifer's
artist horny.
fetishizer?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
we keep hiring fucking gay heretics.
We keep on hiring gay furries doing our fucking art. Damn it.
We keep hiring... Could you imagine... Fucking...
Yeah.
The Lucifer, it's like a neon... It's like a gray... like wolf
The
with
Pope
a
fucking
neon
slaps
red.
his face, and he's like, he looks over, pans over to like a guy in full fursuit. He's like, what? I don't understand. You asked for Lucifer.
I just imagine it's like a fucking gray furry wolf man with big wings and like all the highlights are neon red. And he's like doing that. It's like the Balto art style, and he's like looking at the camera with his like one eye raised. And they're like, "What the fuck is this now?"
It's so comedic. I love it. Yeah. Damn.
And they were burned at the stake.
Damn.
They
We're
weren't.
gonna go. Speaking of the devil, we're going to hell for all the sins we've done.
I haven't done any sins. I've never sinned in my life.
Your art begs to differ, Tom.
You remember that
speaking of,
I Am Jesus Christ game? I want someone to play that game and have a sin counter in the corner.
Oh yeah.
Live sin counter.
I wanted to just.
Be in the millions.
Yeah, I wanted to mention this, Lovettica, but as a man who likes cock, I gotta say, you know how to draw mean cock.
I be drawing dicks. You know what's weird is like, okay, personally for me, when it comes to drawing genitals or just drawing things in general, like I can lose the ability to draw a penis so easily. Like sometimes I'll be drawing things, and then I'll draw like everything else on an image, and I purposely will not draw the dick until the end because I know it's such a delicate process, and like. I've drawn a dick before, and it's looked so fucked up, and I don't understand how it gets that way. I don't understand dicks. Sometimes
because you don't have one for reference.
I mean,
like me and Tom.
I don't use my dick for reference.
It's too big.
He draws it to scale like Christian Weston Chandler. He just puts it on the page.
Oh my god! Did Christian do that?
Yeah, he traced his dick
He traced his cock.
to make sure it was to
made
scale.
a turkey out of it.
He made a turkey out of his 5 dicks.
Well, I'll say this much. I think I don't know if you've experienced this, Lovettica, but I've experienced this a lot on the internet, where it's like you tend to see people draw cocks, and it's like they usually, you can tell what kind of cock they have based on like the cocks they draw, right? And so, like, if you see a lot of uncircumcised cocks, you can very much assume that person who draws cocks definitely is cut.
Yeah,
it does.
Work.
It does pop up. You don't understand it, Tom.
I draw both.
Well, no, what I was gonna say is that it doesn't work for me at all because I draw like every possible permutation of cock.
You do that. That's just because you're a good artist.
Thank
All these
you.
other artists that draw
I don't
circumcised
understand.
cocks are hacks.
So many people draw specific types of dicks, and like I don't understand that because I, as an artist in general, I am built on variety to the point where, like, I will draw obscure characters for no reason, and it will generate no attention, and I will get no like recognition for it. But it's just because I wanted to draw that character. But specifically with dicks, like. There's so many different kinds. Just draw a different dick. People who draw
like the yam cock.
The yam cock? Excuse me?
Yeah, it looks like a yam.
What?
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about the ones
Yeah,
that
see,
are like.
Tom gets it.
You're talking about. I'm drawing it in this stream right now.
Oh,
you're talking
like
about these
that?
Yeah, I
ones?
can't wait to censor that.
No.
I think that can be done
Yeah.
well. There's a couple artists that.
I
do
like
that,
the way you
and I
draw
like
cocks,
it.
Lovettica.
Like,
you draw you draw good, just like it's the I don't know how to describe them because they're just so awe-inspiring, but it's more like they're like the fencing cocks, if that makes sense. They're like you could hold it and be like, I could use this as a weapon.
Yeah.
Like, this feels nice in my hand.
The lead pipe, like you could assault somebody with this stick.
Yeah, and that's a good. And here's why that's a good thing. Kind of cock. And I like that. Grant's another person, or MG, is another prolific cockadrawer, and they draw very massive cocks. And they have told me themselves that they want to get better at drawing, normal cutesy cocks. I'm like, hell yeah, I like cute cocks. I don't think there's a lot of love going around for cute cocks, or I'm just not seeing it
I
a
think
lot.
that
I
a small part of the reason that Grand draws such massive cocks, because they used to draw normal ones, and I started showing them my art where I'm drawing it like a normal sized character looking up at a dick that's like the head of the dick is the size of their like eyeball, and they were just like, that's really hot, and they started doing it. I corrupted them.
Oh. Tom's the influencer. What were you gonna say, Lovettica?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like people are coomers and they want the giant, big, juicy, massive dick, but like, sometimes you have to draw a normal dick, or a small dick.
Yeah.
Just draw any kind of dick. Draw all kinds of dicks. Draw a variety. Make everything.
I want more cocks with bows on them. I want pictures of Spider-Man. I want cocks with fucking cool, like, striped patterns on them, alright?
Like
Get on it.
You know that episode of SpongeBob where he's like, he's selling the pretty patties and they turn.
Yeah, the pretty patties.
They turn
Yeah.
the fucking tongues different colors, and that guy had a fucking plaid tongue.
Gross.
Just
Yeah.
a plaid.
If your
thing.
cock doesn't look like the top of a pretty patty, then I'm not having it,
my
alright?
God.
SpongeBob like invented NFTs.
They really did. Yeah, dude, everyone fucking went crazy for in Bikini Bottom. They were like, I could have the yellow burger. I could have the orange one.
And you just have to mint it for $5,000. Sorry, 3 ETH.
3 ETH. Yeah.
Damn.
I hate to say it, but SpongeBob truly is the end all be all of NFTs, and can't beat them.
You know what's really this is just a side thing. I've gotten so lucky with just like the way I think about my art that it's benefited me so much, and yet I haven't capitalized on it because I still only have like 4,000 followers and don't get many commissions. But I get lots of commission offers. I just don't do many because
And
like,
you
I don't have a
take
good
your
work
normal
ethic.
pills.
Yeah, but like people always talk about, oh, I only did like fan art so I could like grow a following, or other people will talk about like what you were talking about. Oh, people will only draw like one kind of dick because that's like the kind they're into. I've always drawn fan art just because I like it. I really enjoy drawing like characters that I like. Like I do a million Isabelle drawings, I do a million like Ralsei drawings, which has automatically gotten me like a lot of followers over the years, and I just enjoy drawing a vast variety of body types. Like I always say like I like everything from super skinny to like big fat, like, you know, short stack looking characters. I like buff characters. I like tiny dicks. I like monster dicks. I like fucking horse dicks. So I just draw like that whole breadth of everything, but then I completely fail to capitalize on the fact that that's like not something that most people do.
Yeah, takes all kinds.
Mm-hmm.
It's an artist's paradise right now. Honestly, I know a lot of people are always like doom and gloom about like the state of like art in the world, but I think genuinely like art has been on an uptick like constantly. Like we've just kept on rising and rising, and I don't think it's ever gonna fall. I think we're at a weird kind of peak in humanity where unless like we go back to the fucking Stone Age when everyone nukes at each other, it genuinely, I don't think we're gonna lose like art as far as it's improved, because like me and Tom and fucking you, Lovettica, we know this. Like we've seen it where everyone got really into digital art and was making like flash games and was Newgrounds and it was fucking funny, haha. I made fun of Dragon Ball cartoons, and it's like it is a world of difference how like amazing artists come onto the scene like constantly now, where it's and it's not like they're even try-harding. It's more like the information is out there now that like people know how to just make good digital art, and it's just like it's just become so streamlined now that people are just constantly improving, and there's just information everywhere now, and it's not even like an overload of information. It's more like if you need to know how to make a specific kind of art, you can find it almost instantaneously, And even if you couldn't, or if you found something and it wasn't enough information, you can just buy like a digital art class that's like $100 tops, and you get like 12 like videos on this like one very specific person talking in depth about how they make their art, as well as just how to make the art. And not to mention the fact that like I think like the start of like all of this was probably someone like Bob Ross, where it's like showing that the average Joe can make art has like unlocked this weird thing in humanity, I'll say, where it's just like you see the person make it like constantly every day, and you're like, hold on, if I just did that every day, I would just get good at it. Like I can improve, I can do this.
I think that something else that I'll mention with my work is like, you know, when I was younger, I would always hear people that were early Newgrounds people say things like, I only ever did fan art and stuff to build a following, and we'll give advice based on that. But I think that the nature of fan art has changed so much in the last like 15 years, where it used to be, it used to be like fan art itself has evolved a lot, where it used to just be this very hacky like, oh, I want to make a Dragon Ball cartoon because like a new Dragon Ball episode came out and it turned into a meme, so I have to make sure I like parody that within the next like 2 weeks so that I can.
Yeah, over 9,000. You gotta release your over 9,000 video right now, Tom.
But like now, like fan art, especially like like okay, I love Deltarune and Undertale, so like those are what I'm exposed to most. Fan like animations and stuff of Deltarune are just mind blowing. They're like, this is cartoon, like television quality or better content being made for YouTube about a video game. Like, this is amazing. Like, it's not dorkly going, what if Sonic met Mario and they hated each other? It's this incredible, you know, labor of love now, which I think is a big part of why I never got that when I was watching people like, you know, I don't know, not to throw shade at Chris O'Neill or whatever, because he's incredible, but he would say things like, you know, you don't need to do fan art forever, it just helps when you're starting. Because I was just like, well, I just do fan art because I like it. Like, it has nothing to do with growth. It's never had anything to do with growth. I just think it's fun to do.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think in art, I think we can all agree on, where it's like, there are many stepping stones when it comes to like how far you want to go with art. And while yes, making fan art is a stepping stone, much like anything, it's not like it's a bad thing to step on, or it's like something you should avoid stepping on altogether, or even like you shouldn't even be on that stone. Like, why'd you even take that path, dumbass? It's like, no, it's more like everyone can do anything, and really the barrier to entry is just deciding what path you kind of want to walk on, or where you want to stay for a hot minute. It's like, no one's asking you to run a marathon when it comes to like learning art, right? Some people just want to, some people don't even want to make art as like a business thing. Some people need to make art just because it's a fun hobby that they like to do, and that's as far as they will ever go with art. And it's not like that's a bad thing. That's just who they are. It's the same thing with like music or writing or just anything. It's like, you take whatever you want out of the things you are doing, and as long as you're happy with doing them, it's no one's business how far you go with it. Not everyone needs to be fucking the next Mozart, right? Some people are happy playing Mozart, and that's what brings them joy the most. It's like, yeah, that's great. I think a lot of people, especially in the art community, just get stressed out about that. They get bogged down where it's like, oh man, I need to be the next fucking Jaden Animation, or like, I need to be the next fucking Ren and Stimpy, and it's like, no, you just need to be you.
Yeah.
And you need to be the best that you want to be.
That's the most important part. People really want to emulate others, but in reality, I don't think that they work on like being themselves or having their own perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why, like, okay, I guess I should also say, like, Undertale is the lens I look at this through. Maybe this isn't so much the case with other, like, communities, but, you know,
I think it is.
Like, look at, like, Undertale Yellow. That that's a game that is, like, on the scale of actual Undertale, and it's essentially fan art. Like it's just something that has become such like more valid and accepted as its own thing and not like just pandering. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'll say this much, Tom. I think it's like threefold, right? I think it's these three key pillars of not only does everyone have access to the same technology, that technology is cheaper, and the internet exists to link all of this technology together, right? And so what that breeds at the end of the day is exactly what you're talking about, where it's however size the community is, it's a community that's built off of the same like passion and love for an IP or for an idea or for a concept, right? It's no different from this podcast or from this Discord server we're talking in or fucking Lovi's Discord server. It's all comes from the same kind of plethora of I like this thing. I want to keep talking to people who like this thing, and I want to make more of this thing. And the people around me also agree